Hi there, I'm Timothy Linsdau, video producer and Christian and a volunteer in many activities in my so-called retirement life. Well, the fifth suspected coronavirus case is reported in San Diego. What's that all about? An individual is third from a quarantine flight transported to UC San Diego Medical Center. The number of suspected coronavirus cases linked to Wednesday's quarantine flight from Wuhan City, China, jumped to 5 Thursday afternoon. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said in a statement that UC San Diego Health received a third quarantine patient from the Marine Corps Air Station Miramar Thursday afternoon. As you may know, I reported a couple days ago that Miramar Marine Air Base was chosen as a quarantine site. And so now there's a second plane load or group, if you will, from China. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said in a statement that UC San Diego Health received a third quarantine patient from the Marine Corps Air Station Miramar Thursday afternoon. Now, the additional transfer this person had a fever and a cough, is the fifth such patient to arrive at a local hospital since the quarantine flight delivered 167 returning American citizens and their families to a military base Wednesday morning. Now, imagine that fear and frightening, thinking of the Spanish flu of 1918, and millions of people died from that. Let's hope and pray that it's not going to happen again. 2 additional patients went to the University Hospital Wednesday night, while a father and his daughter were taken to Rady Children's Hospital the same evening. Now, I heard a report on that father and child on the radio last night, and they were interviewing the father, and he said, well, him and his wife were taking care of her father, who had come down with the coronavirus. So he was definitely exposed, and the daughter, and then probably his wife, who's back in China yet with her dad. So how bad that is, or they're being taken care of, I don't know. But we hope. Miramar confirmed Thursday night that another repatriation flight was en route from China and expected to land at the air station. Passengers aboard the flight will be required to remain quarantined for 14 days. I'm just thinking about how fast we do things these days, and how much can go sideways on you in 14 days because you can't attend to hardly anything. Tom Skinner, a spokesperson for the CDC, who is part of the team on the ground at the local air base, said that samples from the 5 patients currently hospitalized have been or will be sent to the agency's labs in Atlanta for testing. But as with the case last week, results will not be immediate, as that's how things are. I would hope that we would have some test results back for them sometime over the weekend, Skinner said. Now, though the 5 evacuees have shown some possible symptoms of novel coronavirus infection, CDC and local officials stressed Thursday that it's very possible that the virus is not present, that it could be something else. Though the CDC has now confirmed a dozen cases in the U.S., 94% of the 206 tests performed as of Wednesday have been negative, according to the tabulation that the agency has posted online. So that part is good, but I have heard that the actual flu virus we have in the country is pretty rough, and people have died from it. I know I was in Kaiser Hospital clinic yesterday, and they had a list of the number of people that had it and the number that had died, and there was a small number there. Let's hope it stays that way. The news that local hospitals have now received suspected cases out of the quarantine area at Miramar on the same day that the first flight delivered that 167 people. Officials and patients, especially parents, have become worried that they might somehow get infected merely by being treated at the same facility, or a suspected case is being treated. And that can be pretty frightening. I had a relative that passed away recently, and they were in a isolated room, and you had to put on gloves and gowns and masks. I'd never done that before, and then I hear also that they're running drastically short of masks and gowns for protection. Gets crazy. At a news conference near UC San Diego Medical Center, physicians work to calm those fears, though. That's nice. Dr. John Bradley, director of the Division of Infectious Diseases at Rady Hospital, said a woman whose child had to be admitted with a bone infection was as worried about corona as she was about her child's known medical condition, which itself required treatment in isolation to prevent spread to other patients. No one should be worried, Bradley said. The hospital knows how to keep bugs from spreading. Yeah, but it does happen. Again, I had a relative that picked up a deadly infection from surgery, so stuff happens. Talking about the father and kid in the isolation room at Rady, he says, we're not worried at all that this is going to get out, the hospital said, and that's what we've been repeating when parents are concerned. Brady added that the CDC appears to be operating under the broadest possible definition of corona symptoms when monitoring quarantine patients. The father was observed to have had a cough, but his daughter has had no symptoms to date. I think I pronounced that name wrong. It's Bradley. And say in the 15 or 20 minutes that the reporter was in the room with him, he didn't cough once. Now, to me, he's asymptomatic. This is Bradley talking. But we were told he has a history of cough anyway, and he was in Wuhan with people with the virus, so they wanted him in isolation. So you're going to have situations where people are going to have symptoms that have nothing to do with the virus and has something to do with others, but everybody's going to be really careful in monitoring and so forth. I did have a little conversation with one of the nurses at Kaiser about this issue with the corona and not seeing it as a big problem here yet, and making the point that the present flu virus we have is a pretty rough one anyway. A cough was also reported symptom for the first 2 adult patients sent to the university's Hillcrest Hospital Wednesday night, said Dr. Francisco Torriani. Now, medical director of infection prevention and clinical epidemiology at UCSD. Like those sent to Rady, Torriani said, there wasn't much evidence of significant illness to observe. And she called for a little compassion. I suppose that's not, set her hair on fire and run out into the street. These are American citizens who have gone through a lot in the past 2 weeks, Torriani said. They're tired. They've had really harrowing situations with their families, and so we should be welcoming them. Once test results are in, she said, the hospital will know what to do. If their results are negative, we expect them to go back to Miramar and complete their quarantine. If the results are positive, we follow CDC's instructions, she said. It remains unclear exactly what the circumstances were on the flight from Wuhan to California that resulted in hospitalization so quickly after touching down on the tarmac of the base, formerly called Fighter Town, USA, which you know from the movie Top Gun. The CDC said Tuesday that all evacuees had to pass detailed screenings, including temperature checks and interviews about the presence of any coronavirus symptoms before they boarded the plane. Anyone with symptoms was not allowed to embark. So they were already being tested before they even got on the plane in China. A CDC spokesman also said he did not know whether any of them were wearing masks during the flight. I think it's fair to say that though we did not require passengers to wear masks, the vast majority of people on that flight were wearing them. Coronavirus spreads inside the large water droplets made temporarily airborne when an infected person coughs or sneezes. And CDC guidelines advises people to stay at least 6 feet away from each other to significantly lessen the chances of transmission, because that's about how far such droplets can travel before they fall to the ground. And you know, that's pretty wicked, because that means you could walk into a room where somebody coughed in a short time and run right into it. It's been said, how many people passed through the 6-foot bubble around the people who are now hospitalized with coughs? But it was quick to note that simply passing through such a zone is not really enough to get infected. Well, that's some good news. All the medical evidence collected so far points to having prolonged exposure within 6 feet of an infected person to get infected. Epidemiologists regularly work to trace all close contacts of people with communicable infections, and also that that work would certainly commence, but not until test results have returned. So there's a verification process that they need to go through once receiving the kits to ensure accurate results for testing that are in compliance with regulations and procedures. It's difficult to say specifically how long that will take, given we have not received the kits yet to test. Here in San Diego, at Miramar Marine Air Base, 2 planes full loads of people have shown up, and so far a 5th suspected case is being taken care of at one of the local hospitals. So let's hope and pray this gets contained and taken care of. From what I understand, Beijing right now looks like a ghost city with hardly anybody on the streets, so they're treating it pretty seriously from what I understand, which is good. So, like and comment on my videos, subscribe to my channel, be careful, and get out there and make it a great day.